fluctuate with the way the camera moves. Again, it's not a high resolution camera. Device people, spirit boxes, Ouija boards, all of those kind of communications. I'm not going to be giving you questions here like what color is George Washington's white horse. This is where I start withholding information. So again, you're going to get the answers from your spirit box. And Brian's like, great, I have to get to work. Now, see that kind of look on his face.
I was just thinking, if I see a ghost, do I tell you guys or just keep it to myself?
I get a camera person so we can capture the video. So this place used to be the Charles and Eliza Pinckney Mansion. So their mansion actually sat in the front of this space, where, facing East Bay Street. Eliza's garden was lined up with Five Church Restaurant, came all the way across. We are standing in the servant and slave quarters for the home. So that's the layout of the land. Who the heck were these people? Charles and Eliza had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different ducks. Yeah, good job. I mean, I see you caught that. That's a lot of Charleses. So that's why we use secondary clues, so I know which Charles is actually coming through. So if I don't mention it, these gentlemen would do it for me very angrily. So the son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. That's a big deal for us, but I hate politics more than anybody here. So we're going to move on. We're going to talk about Eliza. Unfortunately, we are out of Women's History Month because we're now in April, so I'm usually a big fan of that. Anyway, Eliza, she married Charles at a young age according to today's standards. I say today's standards because if you're going to ask her how old she was, don't expect numbers like 12 and 14, like what we've already heard. So those numbers are from the colonial times that she came from. Think of today's standard. I bring that up because her husband was over double her age when they married. Kind of a creepy age gap back then, definitely a creepy age gap now, just so you guys have that inkling of a clue in the back of your brain. But she married Charles because her father was over in England, where she's from, and he thought he was dying. He's trying to bring all of his kids home so he can see them one last time. And Eliza didn't believe he was dying, so instead she stays put, gets married. It's 1744. You don't get married in 1744 to get a green card. We're not even a country yet. So she married him out of love, and yes, this is a true love story. Don't poke the bear on this one. There was no foul play or any kind of affair. A lot of people like to poke that bear. It's not there. But at any rate, she was correct. Dad did not die right away. So instead, he started sending her gifts from England to where we're at right now. One of those gifts happened to be the plant seeds of indigo. You guys have been in town for at least a day that I know of. You've seen the word indigo in Charleston somewhere. This is where it started as a commercial crop. Here's how it goes. She got the seeds. She didn't know what to do with them. For those of you that don't know what indigo does, it makes a blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. So that's Hillary's wearing it right now, and so is Brian. So good on you for wearing indigo in her space. But anyway, she didn't know what to do with the seeds. She learned from her slaves. It's obviously not warm here all the time. She had to learn how to cultivate it and then make the dye. When she figured it out, she moved it to a cash crop by the Stono River just south of here, got a hold of her dad and said, the rice plantations are going downhill, we're going to make a killing with the indigo. And we now have an international businesswoman during colonial times. So that's something absolutely unheard of for that time frame. So that's the boring business stuff of Eliza. Let's get into the weird shit, because that's why you guys are all here. Yeah, I have to bring up all those indigo pieces, because nobody else talks about it, and I like to brag about this lady. So, what numbers you got over there, Aiden? I see you pointing.
12.2.
12.2, yes.
I get nothing.
Okay, we're going to have to switch yours, I think. So if you're not matching what he's got going on, his is very accurate. So, again, yours measures different styles of EMF, so we're still trying to figure out which style matches each location. Alright, I thought I had it on the right setting for this location, but apparently not. Anyway, let's get into the weird stuff, because what I'm going to do is, all of you communication device people, I'm going to give you a set of questions that you can ask. So try to stick with your questions, but remember, we have, I don't know, at least 9 pieces of communication out here. If you're asking a question, the answer might be going anywhere. That means, say knife?
Yeah, does that mean anything?
No.
January 9th?
January 9th? I don't know, but that's a very specific date.
I've been hearing a lot. I've been writing it down.
Okay.
I don't want to interrupt you.
No,
everything
that's awesome. I love when people do that. Appreciate that. But anyway, so the answer can go anywhere. So if Lori asks how old, Eliza was when she got married, Brian might get the answer. That's why I'm saying when you guys are listening to these radio stations, any weird piece that you get, like bathtub, numbers and names normally don't lie, just so you know. That's usually a big deal. So that January 9th is probably something. I just don't know what it is. That's what research is for. So let's go through the questions. Lori, yours, and where's the other one? So Hillary, you two are going to have the same questions because you have the same style of device. So with yours, you guys got the mansion. What happened to it? When did that happen? So obviously it's some kind of tragedy, and we're also looking for a very specific date that's not January 9th. That's not the date. But again, it's very specific, so we're going to see what happens with that. Again, the reason why I'm doing that is because you're going to get like 1-syllable terms. So we're going to see how that goes. If we get the what, we normally get 2 or 3 numbers out of the date for obviously the month, date, and year. So with Kristen, you're going to go after Eliza's death. So you seem to be the one that's getting the most so far. You've been the most vocal. But you can ask Eliza anything you want to. She's pretty open. How old she was, what she died from, where she's buried, what president was a pallbearer at her funeral. So very specific questions. Who has the next communication device? So Zora, with yours, I want you looking for Eliza's initials, which are EP, and I want them in that order. If you get ELP, those are her full initials. We've had both of those show up in the past.
I've got an L.
Yeah, you have an L so far, so hopefully maybe she's going to spell out what her maiden name was. I haven't told you guys what that is yet. So who is next on the communication device? So Brian, with yours. Two things. The children, but tread lightly, please. There's a tragedy among these kids. If you piss her off, all activity stops. So we're going to go to you. Just point that out. You can ask how many kids you had, what their names are. Very specific. So, yeah, we look for those specific names. Hopefully the other clues will. How big?
39.
Nice. So, I guess it's time to explain those. That was your set of questions. So, you know, how were they named?
Children's names.
Children's names and how many? Alright, so EMF detectors. Those measure electricity in the air. If you put that Aiden's device behind your TV, it's going to read between 40 to 60 milligauss depending on how many devices you have plugged in. So we just had a 39 in a space where there's no electricity. So kind of keep that in mind. It just gave off enough electricity that runs your television set. If you stand next to your microwave that's running, heating up your food, about 150 to 170. So that's pretty high. The highest I've ever seen Aiden's device go has been where we're standing, 214 milligauss. That's like putting your head inside the running microwave. We left. We did not finish this part of the investigation. That's too dangerous, especially for a guy with epilepsy and seizures, which would be me. So again, when I see a number that high, we're out of here. I can't play with that much electricity with our neurological disorder. You guys get the point, right? So again, that's kind of what those EMF detections are. The average spike for this location is between 18 to 22, and he's already gone way above that. So that's awesome. So Lori, I have to keep Lori behind so I can fix her device. Is it too loud still?
No, I'm just hearing so much stuff.
And I want you to hear so much stuff.
Okay.
And again, you got Joey to help you out, so that's awesome. So I think, London, you're going to work with Zora first. Do you remember how to operate that guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so sensitivity cranked up? Okay. Okay, so you gotta get that sensitivity all the way cranked up, show her how to reset it.
Hey, we're gonna be best
Video
friends.
cameras, unmute. Let's get you unmuted. Video cameras, hit those record buttons. So find your spot. Just be mindful that there are people behind me at their car, and you don't want to be recorded. So you two definitely stick together because I want you to listen in on her device as well.
But record only when you hear something.
No, I want you to record the entire session here. So nice and slow movements. Obviously, we're going to stay away from all vehicles inside this lot. Do not go in between or in front of these cars. All right, let me take a look at your word list. Let me see what we got going on. Everybody else, let's spread out. Let's get to work.
Here. Switch your earbuds. We're gonna come over here.
How long do you require?
Alright, so
We can go.
yeah, follow me. Alright, I say. So we're trying to. Me and you are asking questions about the mansion.
Okay.
So you put in the right ear, I'll put in my left. It doesn't matter, it's the same one. So then we can, you see how like we can stand farther apart now? And it's the same?
Yeah, I'm just having a hard time making out words.
Oh, here, can you spread it?
I did.
Spread it a lot.
That's as far as it'll go on it.
Can you move that down?
Oh, shit.
Alright, well, you got this. This is on you, big dog.
I don't understand it.
Stop. Mom, you gotta back up a little bit. You gotta ask questions. What happened to the mansion?
What happened to the mansion?
Anything?
Call us?
If you want to switch, we can.
Yeah.
If you want to, we can. That's what he said. Like, the people in our groups can switch.
Let's do that.
Alright.
I'm hearing so much
Just,
stuff.
what I've been doing is I put my hand, like, right here and then hold it right there.
Okay.
You also don't have to point this at me. You can kind of just, like,
Oh, do I have to? Hold up, what am I holding, Joey?
hold it right there.
Just I don't have to push nothing?
It's already recording. You don't have to.
Am I supposed to hold it down here?
I do. Alright. When did the mansion get destroyed? what happened to the mansion.
What?
When did the mansion get destroyed?
Was it 1843?
Huh?
Was it 1843? Because I heard.
Here.
Huh?
Are you hearing this?
No, but I heard 843 while. Okay, we had to switch.
That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Again, some
And
people
I-
suck at this. It's all right.
Accidentally.
Yeah, she like snapped one of the earbuds off.
Oh, I always carry extras. They're cheapos. They're like a quarter a piece.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
no
sorry.
worries.
Okay,
They
but
were
he
yours
can
anyway,
still
so
hear.
you broke your own shit. No problem.
But I'm hearing so much stuff that I just can't catch on.
It
It's
can
not,
be a lot.
Yeah,
It can be a lot. So, have you heard anything out of it? That's
I've heard. Oh,
We
I
got
heard
843.
843.
That's our area code. I throw those away.
Oh,
Every
Okay.
commercial is going to start with 843.
I heard good, bad twice,
Okay.
and I hear a lot of music and talking, but I just can't make it out.
Okay.
I was about to say, it's like a lot of classical music. Whenever I ask like about the mansion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We already have that answer, by the way, but you can continue.
Okay.
Somebody else got it. Like, it went to somebody else's device.
Okay, cool.
So you can go straight into the when.
Okay.
When did that? It was a fire. And,
Okay.
and as soon as we walked into the space, Amelia's device actually said fire the minute we walked in.
Oh.
So she's like, that came in as soon as we walked into the thing. I'm like, well, that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
So just get the when and see
Okay.
if we can get a date. So obviously you're looking for numbers or anything relative to a date. So a full year, month, anything like that. So let's see what we can get out of it. I'm going to keep bouncing.
Thank you.
Let's go back here to the slave quarters.
I'm supposed to have it on you the whole time?
I don't know. When did the mansion burn down? When did the mansion burn down?
What?
When I asked that, it went to one channel, stayed there, and then it goes, it's a little bit of a stretch, but here we go, and then switch the channel. When did the mansion burn down? I heard 24. 1924? No. When did the mansion burn down?
Somebody else might be getting it.
I don't know if that 24 meant anything though.
I don't know. I'm supposed to have this on you.
Well, you're filming nothing right now. You're filming that a little bit. When did the mansion burn down?
What?
All I heard is 24. That's the only thing I've got so far. This is really loud.
I don't. You want to turn it down?
No, because then I might not be able to hear it.
I know, that's fine. Hey,
It's
my
just
brother.
really loud. I either just heard lords or lorries.
What?
No, I just heard L'Oreal. Yeah, the only thing I've gotten so far is 24.
Let's get something else.
Huh?
Let's get something else.
What do you mean?
Can you ask another question?
So I got
Or just that one?
Julie,
What do you mean? Like,
Are you supposed to ask different questions?
0,
well, he said try and find out when it happened.
7.
Joey, when I need to stop this, what do I do?
Just hit the red button right there.
Yeah, you're recording. Hit the record button. Keep it running while we're here. All right, Joey, did you get anything out of there yet?
I got 24. That was the only numbers I
Everybody's
got.
getting 24. Somebody else heard the number 24. Anything else?
No.
L'Oreal.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Oh,
So,
in London.
what a,
I also got, he is fooling us.
Really?
No shit.
Cool.
He is fooling us. I'm not fooling it that everybody's
I was
hearing their own names. What else you got on there, low?
so Aiden got a 29 EMF, then a 38, and then Brian just heard Julie 0, 1807, Jesus, and he is fooling us.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot. I say we pulled everybody together. We got a lot going on here. You guys are all getting the gist. Alright. Let's get everybody rounded up.
Cool.
Alright guys, let's head on to the back. Let's talk about what's going on here.
Should I stop? Should I stop this right now?
Nope. Let's go
Okay.
ahead and keep it running.
Okay.
Just out of sheer curiosity. Normally I would say yeah, but there's some weird things happening.
Why do you keep on back?
I don't know. Giving other people space.
So, I'm on this in Christian. So, we got a weird.
again.
You heard president again?
I heard president, but I didn't hear a name with it. Just president.
Yeah.
I did get the name Sean, and also Hurricane.
Hurricane.
Is there a Hurricane Sean?
We're not that far yet. I don't know what they would be referring to. I'd have to go into the hurricane records to see if something impacted Charleston directly.
Should I mute this?
No, just again, I want to keep all your devices running. So if you got a camera, keep it going just for a few minutes. We're going to go over all the answers, but I want to kind of tell you like how I'm looking at all of this. So we have everybody's hearing something relevant to them themselves. So we have Hillary's name that showed up at a Hillary spirit box. Amelia's name showed up over here. So, I mean, and it was spelled properly. And then Zora had her initial show up on her word list. So again, this is not coincidence that none of you knew any of that. So that's 3 people out of, there's what, 13 of us out here grand total. Granted, me and London aren't using devices, except for, obviously my voice recorder. But you guys have a lot going on. I still don't know what the January 9th is, but the number 24 keeps showing up. We also had the word home show up as well, and the word people came up between 2 different spirit box people as well.
I had 2024.
2024. I've seen that on there, and I'm like, yeah, that's where I was like, because you heard the number 24 too, right? Somebody heard the number 24.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the 2 of you heard the number 24, because I knew I'm looking at this as a common thing. I want you to also keep in mind that your spirit boxes are slowed down. What that means to me is that if we ask what color is a big red barn, you might hear Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I don't need Rudolph the Nosed Reindeer. So when you get a number like 2024, and then I hear him tell me the number 24, it's screaming 24 to me, if you're getting the gist of that. So again, I'm excited. Like, you guys are grabbing this really, really fast. So there's certain nights where I have a group this size, where like it takes me another 20 minutes to explain the devices. So kudos to all of you. Great job. You're going to make my job a whole lot easier. I can't wait to watch the Blair Witch Project coming out of nowhere, by the way. It's going to be awesome. The one I actually need to study, I always hand to the smallest person in the group. So, all right, so let's go over all these answers and let's go ahead and get that thing muted, if you don't mind, Hillary. So again, those of you with video cameras, again, you guys gotta know the rules. Let's keep them running just while we're here, and then I'll explain the next phase of where we're going next. I'm excited because you guys are getting the gist of it. I love to come to this space specifically because it is so active. The EMF readings, I think we got all the way up to a 39.
It's got 59 here.
59. Holy cow. So again, we're in a space where there's no electricity. Why are we getting these readings? obviously, is the big question. So hopefully there's some footage somewhere of an orb going by, energy being built up. So if you were getting closer to 100, I would expect somebody to capture an orb, either through Noah's camera or, at this point, Lori's camera. So again, those would capture orbs because of that much energy moving around. And I'd say energy in a very specific language, not generic, like most ghost hunting TV shows will tell you. It's all the energy. Yeah, you need to focus on what the energy actually is. So let's go over these answers. Let's see. So first and foremost, when I break out the tablet, you don't need to huddle around. I kind of go around the room so everybody can kind of see what's going on. This is Eliza Lucas Pinckney. So obviously her initials are ELP, and I give you her maiden name because she's the second wife named Eliza from Charles back to back. So the first wife, Eliza, also had a maiden name that started with the letter L. Sometimes we'll get that maiden name and or the maiden name of Eliza Lucas. So the first wife was Eliza Lamb. Lamb and Lucas would be the names that we're looking for those of you that were looking for that. This Eliza married Charles when she was 22 years old. He was 45. So definitely a creepy age gap then, creepy age gap now. Yeah, I can see that. That's kind of gross. But anyway, so let's talk about why we're here in the space, which is very, very specific. So this is the only photograph of the mansion that we have. This is fire damage from the Great Fire of 1861. We did get the word fire on Amelia's list. I'm sorry, I kind of screwed your name all up there. Amelia's list. And that fire happened on December 11th. We will get 12/11/61, and we've already heard a 12. So I want you to also keep in mind we had bleed over. So bleed over to me is when you're close enough to another haunted space where things kind of interact. We had another name that popped up on Amelia's list that I'm going to talk about here in a minute, but I think we heard the number 12 like half a block away from here. So we could have gotten Pinckney things over by Big John's and Big John's things over here. It can mesh. I've seen it. I'm out here a lot, just so you know. Every tour in town, if you haven't taken a history tour, is going to tell you about a fire in Charleston. This is the one that took out the Pinckney Mansion. This is a map of Charleston, and you are standing on a tiny little green dot on the right-hand side if you wanted to see that. So this particular fire actually went from one side of the peninsula to the other, and basically cost Charleston $5 to $9 million worth of damage. So you're probably asking, a fire that big, why didn't it take down the entire mansion? It was made of more material than just wood. So again, it was a pretty large place. Let's talk about those children. So Brian, those were your questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did I screw up anybody's name yet?
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, I think you guys are an easy group. Oh, because I can. Anyway, I'm one of those people that can remember you very short term. The children, there were 4 of them, grand total. Let's go through them very, very quickly. Charles, you already know about, signer of the Constitution, right? Let's move on to the next one. Thomas, shot in his left leg and captured by the British during the Battle of Camden, Revolutionary War battle. When he was released from the British, he was left on a cane the rest of his days. So, again, we didn't get anything specific to Thomas tonight. It might be that January 9th, if I'm honestly thinking about it, but I'm not really sure. But those are the terms I look for. So, cane, left leg, battle. We've even had battle and Camden show up in the same evening. And that's actually how I learned about this, to be honest with you. Everything we're talking about isn't from the city of Charleston telling me I have to teach you the same stuff. Wow. It's a matter of, this is everything I learned from investigating these same spaces for the past 4 years. So, the next child is the one I ask you all not to poke the bear with. This is baby George, which we had the name George show up while we were over by the Pinckney Mansion. I'll need another clue to verify if this is exactly who it was referring to. Baby George obviously didn't make it. Go ahead.
George over there.
Right, that's what I said by Big John's. So obviously baby George is an infant. We don't know how old he was exactly, but his death certificate has the same month and year in the birth and death column, June of 1747. So, could have been days old, could have been weeks old. He had a name, so I'm guessing he was at least a few weeks old, because back in the 1700s, you didn't name a child until they were christened. So, again, at least a few weeks old. The creepy thing about George is that he does not have a headstone or a grave. The weird theory that I have about this is that they would have mummified him and kept him right here in the home, waiting for his mother to pass, Eliza, so he could be buried with her. Again, that was a common religious practice. Don't go home and Google mummy baby and not expect a phone call from the government, by the way. It's a religious practice. So kind of keep that around. But it's going to get even more weird when we talk about Eliza's death. But there's one more child. Her name was Harriet. She's the only daughter. She actually married Daniel Ory. Ory County is Myrtle Beach area if you're not familiar. So that's 2.5 hours north by car for us. Eliza didn't have a car. Lots of letter writing instead. When we hear from Harriet, very seldom, about once or twice a year, we'll get quill, ink, paper, published, anything relative to letter writing between her and her mother. Because those letters were all published, and they're a very fascinating read, in case you haven't heard of this, published letter book. What do you have now?
I got publisher, pen, and pencil, since we last talked.
Holy cow. So maybe somebody has the name Harriet showing up on their spirit box that they just missed in real time. That's why we record everything as much as possible. So, wow, maybe she is here tonight. And maybe something's very specific to her that I don't know. Maybe it's January 9th that's relative to her. That could be it as well. Let's move on to Eliza's death. Who had to ask questions about her? Christian, those were yours, right? Mm-hmm. So, Eliza was 70 years old when she passed away. First off, let me point out that that's a long time for a woman to be alive in colonial times. She died in 1793. She was going to Philadelphia, get treatments, whatever they thought she had. It turned out to be breast cancer. We didn't know what the hell breast cancer was in 1793. We're going based off her medical records today. Now, she died in Philly. She's buried in Philly. That should raise two questions in the back of your brain. First off, let's go to Baby George. If my theory is true, by the way, don't Google it, they would have taken that tomb of the mummy baby all the way to Philadelphia by horse and carriage. Most of you look like you're old enough to remember the game Oregon Trail, and somebody's going to get dysentery on that trip. That's a long trek for horse and carriage. The other piece is, if she's buried up there, why are we here? We're here because I don't take you to actually to go to cemeteries, regardless of the name of what I call my company. The reason why I call it that is because Charleston's one giant cemetery. None of you are going to hang out near your grave when you're gone. I investigate a lot of cemeteries. It's minimal activity at best. It's never consistent. People don't stare at their headstones when they're gone. They go to their mansions 400 miles away south. So that's why we're here. And that's exactly why I chose the places that I chose of who's the attached person going to that specific location. So, the president. Who wants to take a guess who the president was that was the pallbearer?
I got Ben.
Oh, that's an interesting piece.
What
Yeah.
year?
1793.
John Adams.
Good guess.
Well, Washington was the president then.
I love how you guys did that by deductive reasoning. You asked me what year it was again. Notice I gave you guys all the answers except for that one. So, the deductive reasoning piece is good. The rest of you, you passed with a
Somebody's
fail.
paying attention to history class.
Here's why I give that question back to you. When we got here, I told you all, I'm not going to give you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse, like what we did at the Big Red Barn. I do that so I put Washington in the back of all of your brains, waiting to see who's going to give it to me or London while we're out there. So you all passed with a fail except for these two who put their heads together in the back of the class and said it must have been Washington because John Adams was wrong. So but again, it was C. That's the answer. C.
C. Okay.
So kudos to the rest of you. Good job for paying attention and not knowing I was playing tricks on you. So that's the wordsmith in me. Sorry, I only get one. That's the only one I get all night long. So here's how the rest of our locations are going to go. So for those of you with video cameras, let's get them stopped. So again, we have enough footage of us standing around, and of course here comes the rain.
Stop.
No,
Closest. We're going to stop here.
We've been here before.
Did she show you how to reset it? She looks like you're getting a lot. You want to reset it when you get a bunch of gobbledygook. You take this guy and you turn it down, and then turn it back up. All right. So what did we hear along the way? What do we got
I
going
got 24 again.
24? What put you at 24?
I got active by the restaurant down there.
Active?
Yeah.
Active 24. Notice I'm not writing down the terms I don't think they're going to be relevant, but that 24 keeps popping up.
I heard Flowers by Miley Cyrus back at the market. How they peddle the flowers around. I thought that was kind of cool. And I heard Cut My Life, which is from Last Resort by Papa Roach.
Okay.
That was after you said Pirates. So.
I do know the song. Cut My Life into Pieces.
Yep.
Exactly. What words we got going on with you?
I got a name, Adrian, and then 15 and 40.
15 and 40. Yeah.
Not like in that order.
I don't have to write her
John
down.
too along the way.
John?
Yeah.
You're in the market size. That 15 and 40 is kind of seems weird. Okay. All right. Those of you with video cameras, let's go ahead and get those things started. So with your cameras, again, be kind of discreet when you're, and you don't need to necessarily shoot the people in our group. Exactly. Point just like Noah's doing right now. Pick a direction and shoot it in the other direction. So again, that's how, and just keep it there. Just keep in mind, people will be coming out of that ivy wall. It's weird, but that's other tourists. All right, so London, you're kind of in the way, so let's kind of give Nick a little bit of room. So this place is called Philadelphia Alley now. It used to be called Jewelers Alley. This is where some of the duels used to occur for the city of Charleston. So that's exactly why we're here. Every ghost tour that comes down here, this is pretty much a staple. Every tour comes down here, tells the same story. I'm going to tell you that story, but a lot differently because you're ghost hunting. You need different details. Let's kind of get into it. A doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. He moves down here because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. Are you staying dry over there? Is it a little drier? Okay. Sorry. Again, normally I would, this would be a cancel for me for sure. Again, it just kind of spurred up on us. But Amanda, with all of her money, has an attorney that's helping her out with all of the cash flow. The attorney thinks that Dr. Ladd is just after Amanda's money. So he tells Amanda, get rid of the doctor. So he comes to Charleston to prove that he's not after her money. As he's coming into town, the coachman that was bringing him set him up to be robbed and killed. It wasn't a good start to his stay in Charleston. So somebody was walking by. His name was Ralph Isaacs. Now, I'm going to stop on Ralph for a second because he has the same initials as where the doctor came from. This is exactly why I have the Ouija board that Zora's using, was for those specific initials. So Zora, I need you looking for the initials R.I. in that order when they show up. But we always need a secondary clue, because that's two characters, right? Dr. Rhode Island, and then we have Ralph Isaacs himself. So anyway, back to Ralph. He tells the doctor, you don't want to stay here, man. I know this guy. He's going to try to kill you. He said, come with me to 59 Church Street. You can stay there, rent a room, you'll be safe. He took him up on the offer. They became friends. So the longer the doctor stays here, the more money he's making. He's proving his point. He's not after Amanda's money. Amanda gets wind of this. She's coming down. They're going to get married. Dr. Ladd became known as the Whistling Doctor. Now, here's where I'm going to stop again, because every haunted city you're ever going to visit has a cliched whistling ghost. We all have one, just so you know. There's proof of this one, and I'm going to get to that. And I know every tour is going to tell you that as well.
I saw a video of a dude doing a whistling.
A whistling in a video?
Yeah.
So, we're going to talk about that whistling in just a moment. It's one of the least things that we find here, but it is common for people without equipment. Let's get back to Dr. Ladd. Him and Ralph go see plays together. They can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. That's just the way the hierarchy works here in Charleston. So, they talk about the plays on the way home. They go see Richard III one night, and they're arguing over the actress that just came to town for the first time. Dr. Ladd thought she was fantastic. Ralph didn't. The argument turns into Ralph insulting Doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island. It gets very ugly. They go their separate ways. We've already figured out that Ralph's lived here a lot longer than Dr. Ladd, so he goes to his friends at the newspaper. And he goes and tells his friends that he wants to put an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. Kind of a, you're a disgrace to society kind of mentality. Well, Dr. Ladd saw this ad and rebutted with, let's go to Jewelers Alley. We're going to come down here and settle this, and somebody's going to die. Yeah, right? Again, I can go on and on about this story, but we're investigating. So, they came down, they took their 10 paces, they turned, the doctor pointed his gun in the air, and he shot. He didn't want to kill his friend. He needed the courage and bravery to show up to the fight. However, Ralph has his one bullet. He puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. So, Dr. Ladd doesn't die. He falls to the ground. His friends pick him up, carry him home to 59 Church Street. He dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. Also keep in mind, he's a doctor. He probably tried to bleed out this wound himself. This is 1786. Gunshot wounds back then were a lot different than what we know now. So it's probably lead poisoning. So, again, every ghost tour tells you to listen for the whistles as you're walking through here. We're using my voice recorder. You don't need to listen right now. You're going to listen to it later, so there might be whistles in the background. If you're going to try this on your own and go all the way through the alley, turn on your voice recorders from your phone. You just keep in mind every local knows the story. So anybody walking up and down Cumberland Street or Queen Street is going to throw a whistle down the alley. Me and London do it when she's here every single night. We pass my garage, so we race to see who's going to throw that whistle first.
I win.
So she loses often, just so you all know. Yeah. You can't do it while you're talking, but we're not going to test that right now. We'll test it later. But anyway. So, again, that's the whole point of the whistling doctor. But I always throw a whistle down here because I got kicked out of here. Let's talk about that. That's the fun part of the story. So, this alley didn't go all the way through this way, up to Cumberland Street. It was cut off about halfway between where we're standing and the street itself. The reason why is because this is where they kept the livestock for the city of Charleston. They had to block it off. So, it was called Cow Alley during those times. This is before dueling times. They were still dueling, but probably not with a cow in the middle of the duel. But at any rate, so that means those bricks on the other side, down by Queen Street, are older than those bricks. Those down there actually have a full handprint from a slave child because they're sun-dried bricks from slave children. So, the handprint, I treat just like a grave. That kid's not staring at that brick in the afterlife. I used to show it off all the time when I first started doing this because it's part of history. We all need to see it. I don't care about the diversity of my group. We all need to see how far we've come away from slavery. However, everybody wants to try to get a reading from that handprint. November 26th, 2020. Yes, a very specific date. We're going to get into that too. My entire group of 10 is huddled around this brick, waiting for something to happen. Nothing's happening, obviously. And I'm trying to shoo them along out of respect to the brick. Not only, it's outside the kitchen window of the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. I'm just trying to be respectful to the neighbors, not knowing I was out of bounds. Not allowed to take people down there because it's residential. So, the new owner of that mansion came out screaming. This one thought it was great because Dad's getting yelled at. Yay! So, we moved on. We actually had another little incident that night too. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Homeless guy.
Homeless guy. I told him, Happy Thanksgiving, because it was Thanksgiving the next day, and he went off F-bombs like crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on today? But anyway, there were children, and we had it all on recording. So, but
Beautiful city.
yeah. So the next day was Thanksgiving, like I mentioned. We don't tour on Thanksgiving because I work for Walmart, mainly for about 20 years. You guys get it? I'm not doing retail, Thanksgiving anymore. The next day was November 28th. That's the date we're actually after. So I talked to my partner at the time, and I told him what happened with November 26th, and he said, you can't take people down there. You got to go down halfway or reroute the group. So I decided I'm going to reroute the group. I don't want to talk about pirates, but I have to. So basically, in a nutshell, we get up there. Well, I told the team that night we're going to reroute and kind of what happened the night before. And before we left, somebody heard the name Anne on a spirit box. I didn't tell them who we were going to be investigating. The famous female pirate Anne Bonny. So I went, oh, hot damn. So we get up there. I told her a little bit I did know about pirates in my research that day. And somebody else heard the number 300. I don't know what that means in real time. Write it down, research the next day. We are there November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th of 1720. We were there on the exact 300th anniversary of her pirate trial. And I went, shit, now I got to learn about pirates. So, everything we're going to be dealing with came out of pirate lore. That's the difficult part. You all need to be thankful I have a master's degree in creative writing, and I can put all this together to find factual data. Everything we're going to discuss came from a minimum of 2 resources to make sure we have as much factual pieces as we can so that way we can investigate. Now, the next location, we will get bleed over from the Dr. Ladd story, but I want you to also keep in mind we're going to be talking about pirate lore. It is a hit and miss location because Anne is said to be seen all over town. The hope is that she's going to be there in the same 15 to 25 minutes that we're going to be there. I don't time it. If things happen, we stay. If not, we move on. That's just kind of how I work. Again, I'm not going to keep us in a space that's a dead space. No pun intended. Or was it? But, but the next location is a lot of fun because it's the crazy story that I pieced together of all of the factual pieces that I found. So, any other major questions about dueling that I might be able to answer? This is one of the most beautiful spaces in all of Charleston, by the way. Unfortunately, I can't take you all the way down to the end so you can see it. Yes, what do you have? Please tell me you have something great.
What was the first 3 letters of the Ralph letters? The first 3 letters of his first.
Ralph, R-A-L. And we're looking for R-I. This is initials for Ralph Isaacs.
Because I got R-A-F.
R-A-F.
That?
Like a Raphael?
Kind of.
Maybe he's a Ninja Turtle we got going on down here? Yes, sir.
What if we all walked all the way down the alley as individual private citizens on it? Or we just happen to be walking together?
With all that equipment, that owner's still going to come up. Yep. And then I get that ticket from the tourism office. I don't like calling this a tour, but I have to follow all the laws because we're walking around the city. You guys get the point. I appreciate the effort, Chip. I love it. But no. Not with all my gear. It'll be confiscated. All right, let's go learn about some crazy pirates unless anybody else has something crazy to tell me about their gear.
Just tell them to listen to the Walkman.
Pregnant. He's like, I'm jamming a Walkman.
Yeah, just a Walkman.
Pregnant is definitely relevant. So I don't know if Amanda was pregnant, but again, I've never had a whole lot of bleedover from Anne Bonny in here other than a few pieces here and there, but that pregnancy might be a good piece. I'll take it. Any EMF readings out of you, Aiden? This is normally like a baseline of 5, so anything above a 5 I get excited about. The lamppost kind of give us a little bit of an charging there.
I mean, this is the highest I've been at. I've been at 2.9.
Okay, I'll take it. It's low.
Anyone from Atlanta?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was born there.
Oh, nice.
2.9,
And I heard you don't have to be rich, which is in the song Kiss by Prince.
I love how you keep giving me the artist. Don't have to be rich. Alright, anything else crazy? Alright, let's do this. We're going to go learn about pirates. Alright.
Oh, that's the charger.
Oh, yeah.
Mom, that's the armory. That means that the haunted Airbnb is right there. Mom, isn't this weird how we were saying that we're going to
Yeah.
here?
Well, we're here.
And we have the EMF reader.
All right, what do we got craziness?
Alignment. That's a fun word.
That's interesting.
Yes and no. Don't you start. Don't be my heckler today. Can you do that?
You got doctor.
Where'd you get doctor at?
Oh, back there.
There was a doctor that moved down there. It's a Dr. Ladd. That's when you're supposed to speak up when I say,
Yeah,
hey,
we were
there's
talking
weird
about the
shit going on, and you're
doctor
like,
and the
"No, I got
duel and
nothing."
holy,
She got the whole
seriously?
damn story.
Grief.
I turned it off mute when we were walking between doctors.
Doctor again. Look at that. Interesting. The number 59 shows up here a lot too, just so you guys know. That's the address that the doctor lived. And that's a very interesting space because we're going to be very near there at our last stop. And we've been noticing some things trickling over that are specific about the house, not necessarily Dr. Ladd, but the house itself. So it's very interesting how that works out. A lot of research goes into this. I'm sure you guys have picked up on that.
I heard another song.
He's hysterical. I'm going to give him a job. But anyway, just to keep me chuckling. So, welcome to the Powder Magazine. That is the little tiny building that you guys are facing with the crosses on it.
Yeah.
Those are not crosses on it. So those are earthquake bolts. If you guys haven't taken other Charleston tours, let me quickly explain what an earthquake bolt is. I already told you about our big earthquake of 1886, but an earthquake bolt is basically a turnbuckle. If we have another one, which we haven't, by the way, of that magnitude, you can tighten those bolts after the earthquake, and it's supposed to tighten up the building so it doesn't incur any further damage. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. So the reason I bring these up is because it's part of the reason why we're here. So those earthquake bolts on that building are the oldest, earthquake bolts that we have because it's the first that they were put in. Because that's the oldest government building in South Carolina. It was finished in 1713. They needed it to be protected. So think about that. 1713 is the age of the building. The earthquake happened in 1886. I want to say those earthquake bolts were probably put in like 1889. So probably a few years after to be able to design them properly. But at any rate, so we're here because this building was being constructed at the same time that Anne Bonny came to Charleston to start a new life. So this is what I call a familiar. You guys have seen your TV shows where they actually use a teddy bear to try to attract the child ghost? This is the same type of mentality. She would recognize the building. So that's why we're here. Let's get into her crazy history. The building took 10 years to build. Does that sound like our government, small building, 10 years? No, not at all.
Wasn't our government.
Yeah, not us. Our story begins right in the middle of it. Try to follow me. There's a lot of twists. I'll slow down on the twist to make sure you guys get them. Chip's like, oh, I like twists. I can see this shit and grin again.
I love history.
Your smile is
I love history and
by
twists.
the way. I love it. So, 1708 is where our story begins. Let's go back to Ireland. A young lady comes here from Ireland. Her name is Anne Cormack. She comes here with her dad and his mistress. The mistress is Anne's mother. Are y'all with me so far? Okay? The three of them are running away from her father's angry wife. So, for you gentlemen, that guy had to leave the country. Be good to your ladies. So, you get my point. It's 1708. There's no planes. That man got on a boat to come here. He landed in Georgetown. That's about an hour and a half north of here, between us and Myrtle Beach. Kind of gives you an idea of where they were. Dad bought a plantation. Mom died pretty quickly. That means he's going to send young Anne down here to sell anything from the plantation to help keep things afloat. Hence the familiar building. So, Anne, back home in Ireland, is said to be a badass even back then. They say she killed a servant when Anne was 7, 8, 9 years old, remember pirate lore, with a knife to the belly. So again, we have had the terms servant, knife, and belly show up at this space all in one evening in the past. So kind of keep that in mind. What do you have?
I've been getting like cell isolation and trial.
Welcome to the Powder Magazine. Because we're going to be talking about Anne Bonny's trial and how she was jailed.
You should hire her.
Nice. We've got a lot of good people in here tonight, I think, so.
Everyone's
I
getting
don't
a
always
job
get to
tonight.
say that. I know. I don't get
I'll go home.
Anyway, back to Anne. Let's fast forward. The building was done in 1713. By 1715, pirates are coming through town. Anne's pretty stoked. Why? Because she's going to fall in love. She's going to freedom, just like a man. It's a man's world during this time. So, first guy she falls in love with. This I said first because there's a handful, and we're going to go through every one of them. First guy is James Bonny. Very see where this one's going, right? So, here you mentioned a pirate name. Dad didn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. They ran away to Jamaica and got married. Cormac is now Anne Bonny, famous female pirate. However, James Bonny is not. Captain Jack Sparrow, like what she was hoping for. This guy turns out to be a privateer, so he's a spy for the British. He's a coward in her eyes. This is not who she wants. A few years later, she falls in love again. Guy number 2, John Ratham, aka Calico Jack. This is the guy they based your Johnny Depp character on. Just so you guys know, this is the guy. So she's just gonna stick with him. He has his own crew and ship. She wants to be part of that crew. Can't put a girl on a pirate crew. Does anybody know why? Thank you for keeping it family friendly. I get a lot of bad answers to that question. So I just make sure everybody's paying attention at this point because we're halfway through. So he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and look like the crew, you can be part of the crew. But you're going to be a female in my quarters. Most of us are adults here. Let's put 2 and 2 together. She's eventually going to get pregnant. Can't have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. So somebody's going to figure out that Jack got a girl on the crew, and then they're going to vote him as captain off the ship. So he drops her off in Cuba before she starts the show. Have the baby here, come back later, we'll figure it out. These are friends of mine, I'll help you. She comes back after delivering the baby without a baby. We have no idea what happened to the child. No amount of my research has ever found it, just so you know. Been researching this for 3 years now. So, back to what's going on with Calico Jack. He captured a pirate crew while she was gone, giving birth to his baby. So, that pirate crew's down below deck. Anne's going to go flirting with that pirate crew to make Jack even more mad because he's already angry about her coming back dressed as a female. So she doesn't care. She's going to make him mad. She goes down. We're on guy number 3 in case you lost track. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack captured.
Is that the word air?
Being spelled out.
A-I-R. Or it could be
Could be.
He
keeps giving me the artist. I'm waiting for like the track number out of him too. Anyway, so
just to play with
the 2 females that are dressed as pirates. By the way, the young lady she was flirting with was named Mary Reed. She went by Mark Reed to become a pirate. They became lovers, possibly. We don't really know. We're not going to really know for sure anyway. But the British find out where they are. They send a fleet of ships to come take down one pirate ship. The rumor is that Anne and Mary were the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with 1 bullet flintlocks. Obviously, they're not going to be able to take on a whole fleet of ships. And it's probably also because they didn't know how to use the cannons yet. They weren't pirates for very long. So, they get arrested. As they're being arrested, she looks at her captain, her beau, Calico Jack, and she says, "Jack, I'm sorry to see you here, but if you would have fought like a man, you wouldn't have to be hanged like a dog." The word dog shows up very often at this location. It's a very famous quote by Anne Bonny. So, the judge wants to see the 2 men, quote unquote, that fought back on their own, Anne and Mary. The other 2, Jack and the crew, are already dead and gone. He's already tried and hung them, so they're gone. Anne and Mary go in front and reveal their gender, hoping to save themselves. And he doesn't give a shit if they're female. They're still pirates. "We plead our bellies" was the last thing they screamed out because you can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail. Now, Dad is still up here in South Carolina, all of his Irish money. He was an attorney back home. He had money. That's kind of how things went. He bails out Anne, brings her home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, guy number 4, because we're going to count Mary. We don't really know for sure. So she has 4 kids, dies at the age of 84. Very abrupt. And yes, it escalates very quickly.
I wouldn't have put money on that.
Now with this one, we don't know much about her after her pirate career. So she was pretty famous for, 2.5 years that she was a pirate. So, Mary Reed, she dies a year later, well, actually just a handful of months, in that Jamaican jail from whatever pirates died from in a Jamaican jail. Most books will tell you that it was something simple like fever. I'm going to say let's make it romantic and call it scurvy. Why the hell not? We're talking pirates, let's do this. So, 2 questions I left out because you all know how to ask questions to your spirit boxes by now. So you're going to have fun with this. I left out the names of Anne Bonny's parents. That's the father and the mistress on purpose, so that way you guys had something to work with. I also left out the name of Calico Jack's ship, the city that Anne Bonny was raised in Ireland, and the color of her hair, which I'm sure you can guess was red. So red comes up here pretty prominent as well. So we're going to spread around the space. We are fortunate enough that there are absolutely no vehicles in here, but tours love to cut through this lot or even stop to tell their groups about the Powder Magazine's history and construction. So be mindful of them. But yeah, we're going to spread out in here, and I'm going to let you guys get to work because you all know what you're doing by now. This is a pretty awesome team. So again, I don't hit this every single night. I normally have to stick with one person and keep explaining shit over and over and over again.
Oh, also when you're saying about the hanging about pregnant women, I heard Anne with a male voice.
Doesn't matter what type of voice, as long as it's the words. I only care about the message. Nice. And you had the word pregnant. I don't think I wrote down yet.
Yeah, correct. But that was me now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still weird.
3, 2, 1, kill.
What do you got?
Alright. I didn't really hear him because of how loud this thing is. What do I ask?
Wanting to know,
what was the name of the ship?
name.
Calico. Oh, her parents. And what's her last name? Bonnet? Anne Bonnet's parents? Come on.
Your best pizza. Dear pizza. Let's get some questions.
What was the name of Calico Jack's ship? What was the name of Calico? I got John and Mary.
Really?
I think.
You have to tell him.
It was very faint. I'm gonna go ask him if John and Mary mean anything.
What?
So I said I kind of have all three of them because they're all three kind of sexually active. Mary was Calico's lover. I heard Anne. And John is Calico Jack's birth name.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
I want to come over here. What was the name of Calico Jack's ship? Just got spaceship.
Spaceship.
What was the name of Calico John's ship? Jack.
I want to ask it again.
What was the name of Calico Jack's ship? It might be the. I don't know if this sounds right, but the Boston. No, but if he's a pirate, you want to name it after a place. Besides, when was Boston?
I don't know.
Is Boston in Philadelphia?
Massachusetts.
It is one of the first places.
That might have something to do with where somebody went or something.
What was the name of Calico Jack's ship?
What?
When I asked that it changed to a rap station, all I heard was Little Boat. What was Calico Jack's father's name?
You cold?
Does Charles have to do with anything? So I've heard Charles in Boston.
Maybe.
What does Boston have to do with Calico Jack?
Come on, you gotta tell me.
On a personal level. I could think of George's idea of mine always.
Oh, yeah. Sure, like we've all got some,
Yeah.
some folks. All right. Anything crazy I need to know?
I heard Boston and Charles again. I don't know.
Don't we have somebody here from Boston? Somebody's a
Buffalo.
Yep, thought so. What's funny is we actually had Boston was heard in real time on a Spirit Box last week sometime, and then the word mass showed up on the word generator that Amelia is using. So again, we had Boston mass. So I was kind of like, all right, that's kind of weird. But the name Charles is actually relevant over here because Eliza's husband is buried across the street. He keeps popping up like, hey, like we keep getting little tiny things about Charles over here. Mainly his name will show up. And you're really good at finding names, by the way.
My real name is Charles. So we've heard Charles and Hillary.
Wow.
Or it
Who's
could be,
next?
It could be
It
his
could be
name.
him too, yeah.
Could be him. Again, I don't have a secondary clue, and who knows? I don't know you guys that well, other than you guys are fun to hang out with. So something might pop up out of these word lists or things that I find. When I go through the recording that Brian has, I put in the weird things that I find. I might not know the relevance to the space because it's relevant to one of you. That's why it's just a weird phrase. So the word bathtub, just like what we heard, I don't have relevance. It might be somebody here knows somebody that passed away in a bathtub. I don't know. But anyway, so
I got the letter Q a lot. Is Q referring to, is there a name with a Q?
no,
A boat name with a Q?
no.
I just thought it was an odd letter to get a few times.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know. We're gonna find out. Maybe it is something. I'm going to write it down when we're walking up to our next space. So Q, and then Charles is obviously a big one. He actually has this full menage a trois thing going on with his names. He heard the name Ann when we first got here, and then he heard the name John, that's Calico Jack's real name, John Rackham. And then he's got the name Mary. So I was like, dude, they were all lovers. Like, put them all together. Like, seriously. So he had the whole thing, and now he's really good at names. So apparently that's the thing coming out of that spirit box tonight. And that's not an easy spirit box. That's an older style, just so you know. So let's go through the quick answers, unless anybody else has something weird that they may have heard. So me and Brian were in full conversation that you guys are going to hear later on, talking about the meaning of ghost hunting. So you guys are going to get a little history lesson, I guess. I thought you're not getting enough history. By the way, this is one of the few pictures of Anne Bonny.
He said that no one knew whatever happened to that girl's child when she gave birth.
Yeah.
All I heard in here, like as soon as he said that, was like angels. Like the song went.
Really? Really?
For like a solid 2 seconds. Which was very weird. That's why I looked over at you and then.
What?
It's not like the famous disco music. I don't know what it's called.
And swap devices and plug into the new device. Alright, Hillary, you got anything crazy on yours?
Wish, murder, gun. Well, we walked.
Mainly by that cemetery we walked past?
Just before and yeah.
Alright, so get everybody over here. Come on over, Kristen. Gotta explain how this is gonna work. Kristen, who's gonna sit with you, buddy? Anybody else want to not know the history of this space so you can see how relevant this is?
I'll try it.
Alright, so, well, he's going to be the only one blindfolded at this point, so looks like he's got his purse.
Okay, good.
Alright, so here's how this is going to go. The rest of us are going to go over there. I want to give him a blindfold so he can get it open. Eye wax is gross too, so I don't want him back. So, disposable, so basically when you open this guy up, for single serve, just like an airplane, you're going to open it up this way and it's 2 ply. Pull up on the center and there's a cheap place to rip so you can have 2 loopholes going over your ears. So that's how that guy actually works. And then, while I'm telling you, we're only going to be over there for like 5 minutes. I want you to play with these noise canceling headphones. You don't need to put them on right away, but definitely get used to the tension of them. Just because they're still relatively new, and that way you can see how they pull apart. Because I'm going to have to hand them to you once you're blindfolded. So play with those as well. Okay. So when we come back, we're going to be talking to him as if he's the ghost, like I said, and hopefully he's going to give us answers. Lori's going to film everything. Everybody else is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So do you have any readings coming out of that device at all? We have gotten triple digits, so over 100 in this location, just so you know. Anything crazy, Amelia, that I need to know about before we go over?
Do you know who Mason is?
It's not necessarily Mason a person, it might be a Freemason. And that would be your friend George Washington right here. Lori's like, alright, that's why we keep Nick around. He thinks outside the box. Good deal. Alright guys, let's go learn the history of this space. We're going to leave these 2 behind so they can kind of get used to things. There's a chair right there in the center. Perfect. Alright, let's do this. We're going to be sneaky Pete. I'm going to be real quiet.
Lord.
Holy Taliban.
So, when I first came here, guys, I had no idea what was going to happen because I was experimenting with new spaces. Look around, there's a million monuments, right? So I had a small party of 2. We were supposed to get rained out, but I had 2 that lagged behind. What that person heard was the year 1828. The name Henry showed up, and the name Tim showed up on Amelia's word list. Behind me is Henry Timrod, born in 1828. Very specific details, yes? So, here's how this goes. I knew I'd heard the story before, but again, I don't want to know too much because I want to get it out of all of our answers that we're getting here. Henry Timrod was a poet and a writer. here's how his story goes. He was pretty much sick through most of his life, but being born in 1828, he's obviously old enough to, go fight in the war, the Civil War, and he wants to fight for the Confederates. He goes out to fight, but his comrades tell him, "You're too sick to fight, dude. Go home and write, and be the voice of the war. Go tell people what's going on out here on the battlefield." So he came out, and he started writing poetry, telling everybody what was going on. He became known as the laureate of the Confederacy. For us writers, that's a pretty prestigious title. Now, a few years after he comes home, he has a son. Now, you guys are all going to know the name of the son, but he's not, obviously. The name of the son was Willie. He was born on Christmas Eve, and he died 9 months later, October 23rd. So, obviously very tragic. It was a dark and stormy night, by the way, in case you didn't see the lightning. But a few years after his son passes away, he's still mourning, and his old college buddy gets a hold of him and says, "You know what, you're not writing as much as you should be. Come out to my cottage in Columbia. You can finish working on the piece you're supposed to be doing for the newspaper and have some peace. Leave the wife, Katie, behind with her parents to mourn even further." So he goes out, and that's where he writes his last words. His last words were, "Beholder of brief mortality, person of short life," in essence, in today's language. So then he coughs, and it lands on the page in a blood stain because he had tuberculosis. Yeah. So we had, was it chest and congestion show up or something along those lines? Or, it was something about asthma, chronic asthma. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's why I said, next location. So that blood stain on that page is famous. That blood stain looks like a man writing at his desk. We call it the Blood Book. Tim Rod's entire collection is held at the Charleston Library Society. They only show this book one day a year on that page because it's known as the Blood Book, and they show it on Halloween. But the internet is beautiful. So I'm going to show you what the bloodstain looks like, so that way you guys get a gist of it, and then we're going to go learn more about Mr. Timrod and see how this is actually going to go down. I'm kind of disappointed. I was trying to rush to make sure the bells were going to continue going because I kind of used that with the EMF. Like, Henry, what are you hearing? We get a lot of they'll say bells all the time, or it'll show up on your spirit box. Happens. So here is the last page that he ever wrote.
Oh, wow.
I love the fact that it tells a whole story. Beholder of brief mortality, coughs, dies, right on the page, blood stain. So, very cool stuff. So, again, you guys got the gist of why we're here. Nice creepy story to end our night with.
Yeah.
Nice new experiment to try to, play things out. So we're going to go over and give him some tips because this is a weird thing to do. Just so you guys know, definitely keep... Again, you guys all need jobs. Like, that's the perfect shot right there. I love it. We probably have 1 trillion pictures, by the way. I've been watching Kristen all night long, and she's literally been snapping pictures everywhere we go. So, great job, and kudos to you. But you probably missed out on some of the audio, which is like, yeah, he's got it recorded. I love it. So, let's go to work, and let's see what we can get out of this thing.
Cotton?
Did you?
January and trial date.
All that Trump stuff coming through, right? Alright, so you already got the gist of how to put all that stuff on, which is good. So a couple of things about this. I'm going to leave you under for 10 minutes. Unless I see that your breathing is getting a little too heavy, then I'm going to have Zora tap your leg. So, and Zora, when I do that, I will say, let's count him out, and I'll go 3, 2, 1, and then you tap him out. The reason I do that is because it gives our friend, Henry, a little opportunity to say one last thing. So, January and trial, 2 terms. Christian, when I tap you out, or when Zora taps you out and you take everything off, you're going to remain seated for at least a few minutes, just because this can be a little disorienting for you. Might come out a little dizzy, so it might come out perfectly fine. We never know. I've seen people come up and trying to fall down. I'm like, nope, get your ass back in the bench. Again, once we get you comfortable with the volume of that, I want you to leave the spirit box to your side so we can know that you're not altering the volume to hear us. Okay. So you guys are all getting the gist of this whole experiment, correct? This could work out really well or it can work out really bad. So we're going to see how it goes. All right, let's go ahead and turn that volume up and pull your blindfold down and then put your hands out and I'll give you your noise canceling headphones.
All been done before.
So it is 11:03. This is the only thing I time during our time together, just so you guys know, just so he's not under for too long. So I usually give him about a minute. So it's 11:03. Give him about 30 seconds to get acclimated to the sounds. Let's huddle in a little bit closer just
7
in case
and 8, 11.
Holy cow. So Henry, I'm here again.
Years later.
I brought a whole team with me tonight. Actually, we got a little bit more people than normal. But this is Christian sitting here, and he can hear you through the box with the red lights. So, first thing I want to ask is, tell us what your job was. Can you tell us anything about what you did for a living?
6-year-old.
Henry, I want you to tell us what you did for a living.
I think it's short-sighted.
Henry, one more time. What did you do for a living? I'm starting off very simple. You gave us the answer just the other night. Let's try it again.
Isaiah.
Henry, let's move on.
Celebrate.
We can do that. Why don't you tell us about the birth of your son? Can you maybe tell us a part of the date of when he was born?
America.
It's a very specific date for a holiday for us. What was the holiday where your son was born? Okay, any readings?
Technology.
We're using a lot of technology. Thank you for recognizing that. But I want to get some specific answers out of here.
Mom, we don't know. Daddy's getting hot.
Tell me about your son. Maybe what his name was, his birth date. Let's go. Anything you want to tell us. We'll go a little broad tonight. Henry Timrod. Can you tell us how many people are here with you? Let's see if you give me the same number that you normally give. How many people are here with you? Don't count any of us that are watching you.
Hawaii.
Anybody else getting any words? Any words on your word list? Doesn't matter anything?
Because that Henry Mason house is here.
I mean, we get a lot of different clues. I mean, that Mason thing was pretty specific. Notice he's not talking as I'm talking to the rest of you.
High profiles. 360.
Henry, let's get anything you want to tell us specific about you, your life, your family. Maybe how you died. That's a pretty good question. You've given us that answer before. Specifically, just so you guys all know. Like, that was an amazing session. Come on, Henry. We're all listening.
Sober now.
Henry, can you at least give us something simple, like that you're just here with us? A simple yes or no? Even if you say no, we know you're going to be here. No readings at all?
2 blocks away.
That's 59 Church Street. He's 2 blocks away. Exactly. What's 2 blocks away?
victory of the season?
It's been under about 6 minutes, just so you guys know. It's in his beard, Aiden. You gotta put it in the beard. Kidding, don't tell me. Henry, anything that you want to tell us, because you haven't given us anything yet. I'm going to close it down if you don't want to talk to us. Henry, one last chance. I'm going to count it out. Zora, get ready.
I am your God.
I doubt it.
He speaks.
Who speaks? Henry, I'm going to count it out. 3, 2, 1. That's happened. Give me the tap.
Call me.
He's not getting the message, everybody.
Harder.
He knows what's going on.
Odds-on favorite.
He wants to keep going, is what he's doing.
Am I supposed to take him off?
Yes. That was the tapping you out.
Yeah, I thought you said you were taking these off, though.
No, I won't take anything off of you.
Okay.
Like, I don't touch any of you guys, sorry. I
No,
think that's a weird thing to do. Go ahead and take off your blindfold.
just misunderstood, I guess.
It's okay. How are you feeling?
Feel fine.
Yeah? How did it feel when you were under?
Nothing like crazy.
Okay. You didn't give us anything. I'll be honest. Like, there was no, like, this was unsuccessful. Like, I'm not going to paint a picture of, like, how beautiful this was. We were asking direct questions. We gave him general questions to give us anything he wanted to. Absolutely nothing came out of that. So, again, sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. So, unsuccessful ones, we just learn from it. Like, what kind of questions did we ask? Were we asking the same questions we ask every single night? Was that the problem? And those kind of things. But again, we did get a lot of video of, you know, the entire thing. I don't think anybody did any of those things that he said. Was it relevant to anybody here specifically, or anybody hear anything on the spirit boxes? Brian, did you get anything on yours?
No, just bunch of chatter.
A lot of times, what we'll notice is if it's not coming up here, you get it. All right, I say we find a good tree.
That sounds good. Right where I'm at.
Probably going to be closest to that trunk, don't you think?
I don't feel
We can all
nothing.